So,
Hi,
hello.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
How is everybody out there?
I hope everyone is good.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. So, yeah, we wanted to talk about common myths, claims, ideas people have about radical feminism. Are they able to be debunked, critiqued? Are some of them even true? Maybe some of them could be true. So yeah, we asked a few people. Well, in our community posts, like, tell us what kind of myths and claims you hear about radical feminism so that we can discuss them. So that's what we
Yeah.
plan to do.
And first of all, I want to say I was really impressed by everybody's responses, and they
Mm-hmm.
were so thoughtful, and they were things that we've both heard many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, I was so delighted with the amount of replies that came into our question because, like you said, there were so many super thoughtful replies, and it was wonderful to know that like women are thinking about radical feminism and um, yeah, it was just really, really nice to get all of those thoughtful comments.
Yes, love it. Favorite part of
Hmm.
YouTube.
Yeah, same.
All
Very
right.
nice. Okay, so do you want to kind of
Oh,
lead this since you made the slides or help
sure.
anything?
All right, so let's start with the first one. I just pulled all the comments, or many of the comments that we got, so we could all take a look at them and check out what people had to say. So the first one is, you said feminism includes all women, being used to argue against critiquing any damaging female behavior rather than it meaning that we fight for things that benefit all women. For example, abortion access helps trans identified females, conservative women, and everyone in between.
Hmm.
So, of course, feminism benefits all women, but not all acts by women are feminist acts.
Yes. Yes. So this kind of a claim, like the very first bit that says, "You said feminism includes all women," that is often used um, to clap back when
Mm-hmm.
radical feminists have critiques of certain things or behavior. Um, if feminism includes all women, then how come you're critiquing this or you have something negative to say about this? Uh,
Exactly. And
yeah.
you
So.
hear that from the WWCTRF, and you hear it from liberal feminists too. Like, if say you're critical of stripping or something, someone's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, stripping, it's empowering. It's feminist." And you're like, see, actually it really isn't."
Mhm.
Um then they would say, "Well, I thought feminism was for all women. Why are you excluding women? She thinks it's feminist."
Mhm. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess this is a myth and kind of true. Feminism is for all women. Yes, that's true.
Absolutely.
But um, that doesn't, what's the word? That doesn't exclude women or the harmful behaviors they might engage in from feminist analysis and
Mhm.
deconstruction.
And critique.
And critique.
And something that's really important is, just because we critique an action that a woman does is not
Hmm.
passing a moral judgment. I think we'll get into morality a little bit later, but it has nothing to do with moralism or saying she's bad, passing a judgment like that. It's like, no, this action needs to be looked at because it is so entrenched in patriarchy that it can never be a feminist action. And there are
Yep.
things that are just per se not feminism.
Yep.
Oh, um, just want to pause from that for a second, and because I've heard about, I can't highlight the comments, but
Tell me which one.
EST3LIX.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because someone wrote to me and said, "Oh, will you talk about this?" And I hadn't heard about it.
Oh, I did hear about it.
But I looked up and I just Googled like celebrities who have used surrogates. I used to be a big fan of Tom Daly, I think his name is. He's like a
Yeah,
diver
the
in
diver.
England. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he is married to a man and
Mm-hmm.
they had a surrogate. And he did like almost daily vlogs and I used to watch
Yep.
them when they like adopted their kid or whatever. And I that was like before I was really got into radical feminism, but it made me like uncomfortable on like a visceral level
Mm-hmm.
even then. But so yeah, this is good. This fits right in with the theme, like being against surrogacy
Yes.
and not seeing that as an empowering act, or like what you always hear is like it's the greatest gift a woman can give to someone.
Right.
Like, I mean, I guess if someone needs like a kidney or something, that would be a great gift to them. But like, no one needs a child with their
A biological
DNA.
child, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That news about Jonas and Priyanka couldn't have come at a more convenient time for this topic because, yeah, surrogacy. Let's try this one here. Is such a touchy issue. It's almost impossible to breach with most people from a feminist perspective. I
Really? That's interesting. Like, I want to hear more from that person about
yeah.
why they think it's so touchy. I mean, it seems very obvious to me.
The
Do you
things that I
agree?
often hear are, well, a woman's body, a woman's choice,
Mm-hmm.
and if she chooses to do that, or she's being paid for it, then why shouldn't she be able to choose? Or I also hear things like, um, from women who are surrogates, like, well, I just loved being pregnant so much, so I thought, why not? So those
Yeah.
are
I
a lot of the
mean,
arguments I hear.
I guess there's some there's some validity to that, but I think it's so, I mean, it's so analogous to the prostitution thing where like you're going to hear from those few people who like do genuinely enjoy it. Like if that's, I feel that's dubious anyways, like
Mm-hmm.
to quote unquote genuinely enjoy it, but it's theoretically possible. We can at least say that. But you're going to hear from those voices. But what about the women who
Yeah.
are, say, coerced by their financial situation? You know,
Yep.
there's this great quote that you probably heard it, but like something like if you allowed people to sell their eyeballs, you'd have a class of one-eyed people walking around.
Absolutely. I once heard, because okay, this is more celebrity, but Kim Kardashian had her first two children herself, and then her second two
Mm-hmm.
children by surrogate.
Right.
And I can't remember exactly what the surrogate was paid, but I
Mm-hmm.
remember seeing that someone had worked out to, it being about $17 an hour.
Oh, like throughout her pregnancy?
Right.
Like if you were like 24 hours a day for
Yeah.
9 months? I
Yeah.
mean, it's gonna sound so cynical, but like that's not that bad.
I know, but like, and you think about like, well, and
No,
that's
but
like the
pregnancy,
average person who hires a surrogate, like, okay, maybe they can afford that, but like someone like fucking Priyanka and Nick Jonas or
right.
Kim and Kanye, I think you can afford more. Not that like
Okay.
buying
I mean,
women's
for
bodies
like
is,
literally the most precious gift you could ever give
yeah.
someone.
Uh,
Yeah.
anyway, wild.
No, it's really interesting. It's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I mean, it's just another way that women's bodies are for sale. And
Mm-hmm.
again, you create this lower class of people, or you're exploiting this lower class of people who are that level of desperation,
Yep.
that seems to be acceptable to them. And pregnancy is the most dangerous time in a woman's life.
Yep. When she's the most vulnerable
Yep,
to all
most
kinds of things,
it's
including male violence.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Number one leading cause of death in pregnant women is murder
Yeah.
by their significant other. And on top of that, all of the health, oh my gosh, strokes, blood clots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a million different things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, this last comment by Pere.
In addition to the issue of women's bodies being seen as literal commodities available for rent, many just genuinely cannot fathom that pregnancy is something actively harmful to the female body. Yeah, I often hear the claim that, like, but it's what women's bodies are designed to
Oh,
do. It's like,
my
or it's
a
what women's
baby
bodies are for.
or a fetus is a parasite. I mean that's not a like again, that's not a judgment. That's like a factual thing. It is leaching nutrients from the woman. There are cases of women losing all of their teeth during pregnancy because the
Mhm.
baby has leached all of the calcium out of her bones.
Yeah. I once heard somebody describe
No.
pregnancy as the ultimate sexually transmitted disease, which is kind of funny.
Oh, are we
Wild.
gonna get hate for this?
Yes.
The anti-natalist.
I know. Oh, goodness.
Okay,
I'm
that was
gonna,
a yeah.
sorry, just before we move on, at the end of this, in the description box, I'm gonna put a link to a podcast uh, with Renata Klein, I think is her name, who is like the foremost expert in why surrogacy is bad.
Oh,
So
great.
I'll put a link in the description box below after the end of this so that anyone can listen to it if they want. It's very good.
Yeah, when it was initially brought up to me, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's not really like my area of expertise within feminism or anything, but it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely interesting." And yeah, I think the larger issue, and I told you I'm working on a video about another video about sex work, but
Mm-hmm.
um the idea of seeing women as commodities as or subhuman or whatever, it's the fundamental crux of feminism
Mm-hmm.
or one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's the biggest hurdle we have to overcome is to get people, women and men, to see us as human beings.
Full
So,
human beings. Yeah.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
What's the next one? I don't even remember, so it's going to be fun to see what's in here.
Surprise!
Oh, okay. Here we go. You want to read them?
Sure. Okay. The first one. So, a myth about radical feminism that radical means edgy. Some libfems call themselves radfems without any basis, simply because radical sounds powerful, edgy, and slightly dangerous, and sort of appeals to their reputational fashion sense.
Mhm. And then
Contra-
sort of yeah,
yeah,
juxt juxt
contradicting it or
yeah, exactly.
juxtaposing.
Yep.
Radfems are conservatives or they use evangelical talking points. And there's the myth that TERFs are evil, mother hating, man hating dykes. And also that we're somehow conservative housewives too.
Exactly. It's
So,
funny. It's like we're portrayed as both, like depending on who you're talking to.
hmm yeah,
Um,
I think the more like queer and gendery side of things are more likely to brand radical feminism as conservative, evangelical, religious. Um,
yes.
and then the more liberal feminist side of things are more likely to brand us as mother hating, man hating dykes. And then um, the gender critical ones are the ones who will claim the word radical because they
Mhm.
think it means edgy and intense and powerful.
Yes, and because somebody called them a turf.
Yeah,
And one of my earliest experiences on Rad Twitter, which I am not on Twitter anymore. I'm not on any
good,
social media except
good.
for YouTube. But it was a girl, I don't remember her name and I wouldn't call her out anyways, but she's a young gal and she was like, "Oh, you're telling me that I can't." It was like a huge this was like a huge thing too. She's like, "You're telling me I can't wear makeup. Uh and not be a radical feminist or whatever. Like, and she had come to it just because she had been called TERF, right? So she thought
Uh,
that automatically anything that she did was radical feminist because I'm a TERF.
right.
So, you know.
Yeah, that's the awful, well, one of the awful things about the acronym TERF is that, yeah, it's so misleading. At this point, it doesn't mean trans exclusionary radical feminist. It just means, in their eyes, transphobic. Um, but it really has nothing to do with radical feminism at all. And the women who often start to claim it because of their experiences being called it also don't know anything about radical feminism. And then we get into a big mess of them not understanding us and us not understanding them.
But they think that they should be part of this
Mm-hmm.
too. I know you and I talked about that yesterday. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I really hold to that too. Like, gender critical and radical feminism, I think, are two completely separate things. And a lot of people would say, oh, well, radical feminists are gender critical,
Yeah.
which is
Yes.
true.
Every radical feminist is gender critical, but not all gender criticals are radical feminist.
Of
I'd,
course,
I'd
now I
argue
would, yeah,
not
go ahead.
most gender criticals are radical feminists.
Right. And I would argue, yeah, virtually none are. And not
Yeah.
only that, but I think, is this what you were just saying before I kind of zoned out? That's me. But the gender critical, they're not really gender critical most of the time, let's be
Mm-hmm.
real. I don't know if we
Right.
get
They're
into that
trans
late.
critical.
Yes. Well, and a lot of them aren't even trans critical, they're just hating.
Hateful.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Yeah,
totally
genuinely think trans people are just icky.
right.
Yeah.
So it's just a big, big old mess.
Yeah.
Big
I
old
like
mess.
this definition of radical.
Yes. I
Feminists
like
on
that too.
skateboards listening to rock. Very
I mean,
radical.
you know, would that be so bad?
Not at all.
I think that would be pretty fun.
What is this? I have some libfems TRAs wanting to reclaim radical feminism, by which they mean include men in BDSM. I
Ugh.
mean, you can't reclaim radical feminism. There's nothing to reclaim. It already exists as it is. Like, that makes no sense.
It's a framework. Words have meanings.
Yeah. Yeah. But
All right.
yeah, did you want to talk about any of these 3 points here?
Oh, well, the conservative evangelical thing I get all the time. All the time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is insane. I mean, I don't know. I'm a leftist or
Yeah,
left as you can go. So,
it's interesting to be called conservative or like evangelically Christian, just for having critique about like gender roles.
mm-hmm.
Uh, because when you're a radical feminist, like you're anti-patriarchy, which goes against conservatism. So sometimes I think people don't really, well, I know people don't really think about what they're saying before they make this claim, because if you thought for 1 second about it, you would know that it's not even remotely close to true.
I mean, I think especially people on the left, they're in the mode of dismissing everything that conservatives say anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I have to like clear my voice.
Yeah,
So it's like a convenient way for them to dismiss us and
Mm-hmm.
just be like, and look, most things that conservatives say are garbage. This is like one of the only things that we agree with them
I
on.
know.
But it is like a convenient way for like someone on the left to be like, oh look, they agree with Trump or
Yeah,
whatever. You know, it's like irrelevant.
I
Don't even listen to
know.
them.
And it's important also to note that though on this particular point we might agree with conservatives and they agree with us, we agree on the topic for very different reasons.
Yes.
Conservatives and evangelicals agree because they want to maintain heteropatriarchy gender roles
They want to keep the
and
woman barefoot in the kitchen.
exactly in her place. And we agree with this issue because we want to liberate women from
Yes.
it's the total opposite, yet somehow
Exactly.
it
And
aligns in the middle.
You know,
Oh,
the trans stuff really is the conservative, you know, they're reinforcing stereotypes,
yeah, that's
reinforcing
the
gender
irony.
roles. What's that? There's like a meme that was like the person doing the dishes is the woman or something like that.
Right. That's how
Instead
you
of,
know who
yeah,
the woman is.
the uh, the broke is the woman does the dishes. The woke is the person doing the dishes is the
Is the
woman.
woman.
Yeah. So,
Oh, have
yeah.
mercy.
So, yes, I mean, trans is a very, very conservative.
Yes, way of thinking about things and
Hmm.
existences, really.
Yep. I'm
Yep.
just checking out the comments.
Yeah.
Yes, miscellaneous coffin. Liberals think
Liber-
that anyone who disagrees with them at all are conservatives, which is just exhausting and short sighted.
hmm
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you have to have this like nuance that, you know, you can believe in some things and reject other things. There's not this like monolithic, you know,
hmm
agree with everything in the party line or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Anywho, now we got a lot to get through here.
Okay. Okay.
Moving on. Oh, good one.
I heard a myth that rad femmes hate mothers. Okay,
No.
where to start with this one? Absolutely not true, and absolutely is a myth. Radical feminists do not hate mothers at all. I personally will speak only for myself, but I think obviously mothers have an incredibly hard job, especially if
Mhm.
they are stay-at-home moms or single moms. Um, it's I have a person in my life who's incredibly close to me and is a single mother, and I just see how exhausting and hard it is, no matter how much she loves her kid and how much her kid brings her joy. Like, it's hard. So, I have a lot of respect for mothers and what they have to go through and what they have to do. Um, Radical feminists do not hate mothers.
Not at all. And if you're a mother, you can be a radical feminist.
Absolutely. I'll just piggyback off of this. Another myth I hear around this thing is like, so what? Should we just all kill our sons then? Of course
I mean,
not.
ideally you don't have them in the first place.
Right. Right. Of course.
Ugh.
But no, radical feminists don't hate mothers. Radical feminists do have I suppose critiques or
Mhm.
concerns around the ways in which motherhood and oxytocin can cause mothers to see their sons as not perpetrators or harmful to people around them.
Mm.
Um, uh, or some arguments, not arguments, but some comments I've seen have been things like, there's a woman only event happening. Maybe it's a consciousness raising circle or it's a get together, whatever it is. Um, and people will try to say, like, boys under 5 are permitted, but not over 5.
Oh.
And
Oh, yes.
I've seen
Well,
this a
it's like
lot.
having like little boys in the dressing room or something.
Yeah. Not even just that, but like events, even like
Mhm.
um,
They're not
gatherings,
a
whatever.
threat.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, what about the little girls who are there? Don't they
Yeah.
deserve a female only space too? But
Mhm.
that's considered hateful or
Interesting.
anti-mother. And it's like, no, no, it's not. We're thinking about the little girls who need a space free from little boys as well.
Mhm. And knowing that
So,
even in an event like that, the boys are going to be getting some attention that should be
hmm
going to girls or other women.
hmm
And that's not really the right venue for that.
hmm
But I would say, why does this myth exist?
hmm
Because radical feminists have critiqued motherhood as
yes.
not a path to liberation. Is that too edgy to say?
No, not at all. I fully agree. I am right there with you.
It, I guess in an ideal matriarchal type like village setting or something, we might be talking about something different, but in the world currently as it is, that women in hetero relationships, even without children, end up doing an average of 1 extra hour per day of housework.
Yeah.
And when you add children into that, it's even more. The burden of child raising falls to women, the burden of pregnancy falls onto women,
Yeah.
you know?
And I think a critique of this way of thinking sometimes is like, well, shouldn't we all be then lobbying for better supports for women? And absolutely, yes, we
Yeah.
should. But women also have been doing this for so long and are getting nowhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, the thing that frustrates me coming from radical feminists, and I had a conversation with someone yesterday about this very thing, saying that motherhood is actually our ultimate route to empowerment or expression of empowerment, because it's, in nature that's what we're naturally intended to do, is to become mothers. And
Or
it's
it's
sort of
something
that.
only women can do.
Yeah. Oh, yes. The magical mother goddess superhero narrative.
Right.
And I just disagree with it, and that's an opinion.
Yep.
I think, yeah, I don't know. I need to read
Yeah.
more about that, though. I feel like I haven't read foundational texts on that subject specifically much.
Me
If anyone
neither.
has any recommendations. But yeah, it just seems kind of obvious that like you're going to do this thing that's going to put your body in its most vulnerable state.
Yeah.
All of society looks down on you.
Yeah.
You have no support, at least in America. Like, it's horrendous as far as like support for new mothers.
Yeah.
Where is the empowerment? Like, I don't
I
think I've ever
know.
heard a good explanation for why this should be like the most empowering expression of womanhood.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
and on top of all of this too, um, uh, it's exactly what is expected and required of women to be good women. You're fulfilling exactly what patriarchy has predetermined for you
that is such a good point. Such a good point.
to perpetuate a man's line and
Yes.
name.
Always. This comment or in the chat, Mrs. Flowerstar. Yeah.
I hate the focus on motherhood in radical feminism. Just opt out of the thing that makes your life so much harder and leads to your oppression. Duh.
Yeah.
If only, if only,
Yeah.
if only. But a lot of women do are starting to make that choice to be child free, and
Yes. I mean, it's definitely in pretty much every Western country. It's the trend right now. And of course, here's another thing: radical feminists are anti capitalist.
yes,
And making babies is the number one thing that capitalism wants you to do. So
more
it's it's
consumers
it's yeah, more
and more
consumers,
things to
more
consume.
workers, more minimum wage workers, more soldiers, you know, more bodies to be thrown into the meat grinder.
Yep.
So yeah, you're doing exactly like you said, you're doing exactly what's expected of you. How is that a radical act? Radical feminism is about really restructuring, going against the status
Yes.
quo.
Thorough and holistic, complete reform is
Yes.
definition of radical that I love.
Mm-hmm. Saying rad femmes hate mothers is as silly as saying we hate sex workers. I think we're going to get into that
We're
in the
gonna get into
next
that. So let's.
slide or two. Oh, here's white feminism. I hear it about once a day. That's one of the biggest critiques that I get when I get so-called hate comments on my channel is "you're white. Shut up."
Yeah. And
I am
I mean,
white. I mean, that is
that is true.
factually true. I'm not trying to speak over anybody. I have my own platform that I created for myself that no one gave to me. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, this one I don't really understand what white feminism is or even means or why it's an insult. Now, certainly, if women were talking over the experience of women of color or a particular thing that affects women of color, you could probably critique them as white women for doing that because what do they know about that experience?
mhm.
But I find that the accusation or the claim of being a white feminist comes up most when speaking about gender stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And it's another
So,
thing like you're conservative that's just like automatic write off. You
yeah,
know, it's
I don't
when they
understand it
say
at
white,
all.
it's the implication that you are racist.
Right.
And therefore, whatever you say, even if you say, I like ice cream, well,
Mm,
your opinion doesn't matter, you know?
because you're a white feminist. It's very weird. And the thing is, too, though, women who are not white get called white feminists. So,
Yes,
what does it mean?
very true. Viperys comment, radical feminism is the dominant or often only form of feminism in non-Western countries. And of course, it's the only real form of feminism in Western countries too.
Right.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those claims that to me is so nonsensical. I just do not understand it at all.
yeah, and you know, I don't. It's like so touchy, like even how to verbalize this, but like I have a lot of people in my community who are not white, you know,
Right.
in my YouTube community, and
Same.
like I really value their input as much as anyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like again, I think it's just something that people say to just instant write off.
Yeah. It's just a silencing tactic, a way to, yeah, write you off, shut you up, and warn people about you.
Yep.
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 Wild.
Um, can we look at Beatrix's comments before we move on?
Mm-hmm.
Even the one before that.
Oh, it's the structure of the economy since the Industrial Revolution. If women have no rights and are dependent upon men, fathers, husbands, and the government, so we can stay home, it's a gamble.
And then the next one.
Radical feminism criticizes the system where women and men no longer work and raise kids together with extended family and community, where men work for money and motherhood running a house is valueless. Yeah,
Hmm.
great comment.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Food for thought.
Yeah, yeah, women who are mothers and run the household, yeah, are seen as not being equal partners, which is insane to me.
I
Um,
know.
they're seen as having it easy or, yeah, not doing
Like
as
they're
much
loafing
as,
around eating bonbons and
yes,
stuff.
exactly,
It
of
that is the
course.
most one of the most insane like rewriting of the truth or whatever. It's like, oh, the man is going off to work and he has it so
Is
hard.
putting food on the table.
It's just like,
Which
oh
is
my god.
actually that is so funny because how often do you hear, yeah, men go to work to put food on the table, but who's the person who's shopping for the food and preparing the food and serving the food? Not the men.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of work. And here's the other thing. Women do all this unpaid work so men can go out there and be self-actualized and have
Yes.
interesting careers,
Oh
and
my God.
women are the unpaid backbone. The capitalist system would not exist without women's unpaid
Subservience.
labor. Even volunteer work, PTA, all that kind of stuff, that is
Yep.
all women for the most part. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this
Yeah.
whole the whole system, that if women were just like, no, I need to get paid for that. That is actual work.
Actual work.
It
Yeah,
would fall apart.
absolutely. Ugh. Yeah.
We've never talked about like UBI.
Universal basic income.
Yeah, as like a way to,
I
make
think,
women a little more whole on that.
yeah, I think that is such a reason that it's so like hated is because it would
Women would
give
benefit.
women exactly,
Yeah, women would benefit
exactly,
disproportionately. Actually, something that
disproportionately.
that I really want to talk to off topic, but maybe a topic for upcoming, um, is because something I've been thinking about a lot lately is I know we as feminists think that, women's rights is our biggest cause, right? It's like our biggest thing.
Hmm.
But workers' rights, just follow me for a second,
I'm with you.
is, if that's an area that actually there's potential to actually make progress in, because we know, let's be real, like it's such a struggle to make any headway with women's rights. But if you're fighting for the poor in general,
Hmm.
the majority of people who are going to benefit from that will be women, but you can
Yes.
get more people and men and everybody on board with that fight.
Yeah.
You know what
No,
I
workers'
mean?
rights is such an important thing. It aligns with so much of what I think as someone who really leans towards Marxism,
Yeah.
Marxist radical feminism. Yeah. Um, Absolutely. Women will automatically benefit from the fight for workers' rights.
Yeah.
It's
I
incredibly
mean, it's just like
important.
a rising tide lifts all boats, but like women
Hmm.
make up the majority of poor people. So I don't know. Yeah, that's like, I'm going to jot that down as something to talk about in the future because
Yeah,
I
it's
think
such
you
an
and I
important
probably have a lot to say about that. But anyways,
big time. But we don't want to get off topic on today's.
yeah, we're like already at 37 minutes. Okay, moving right
That's
along.
fine. Okay, next myth about radical feminism. I have mostly heard and read stuff like not all men and ad hominem attacks such as women are just as bad, etc., etc. Same old century arguments.
Yeah,
Um,
not all men. I mean, I mean,
yeah, not all men is true. I mean, certainly we all know men who we would consider to be decent and good and kind and
you
thoughtful
think.
and generous, right? Like,
I mean, most women who get murdered thought their guy who
e-
murdered them was generous and kind of decent too.
exactly, right? So, um, not all men, but certainly enough men. It's like to
Not all
me,
men and virtually only men.
r- yeah, absolutely. Um, what's that
Isn't
quote?
there?
I have, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say there was like a tweet that got popular and it was like, it's not all men, but we don't know which men.
Hmm.
So we have to treat it like
And
it's all men. Sorry.
also, uh, not all men harass women, but every woman has been harassed by a man.
Absolutely.
And to me, also, it goes back to like the old bowl of M&Ms analogy. You have an entire bowl of M&Ms or candies on the table, and five in the entire bowl are poisonous that will kill you instantaneously.
Hmm.
Are you going to pick up a handful and eat that handful? No,
Of course not.
I'm certainly not. Um, yeah.
And you know what's interesting too? I was thinking like the men who orbit our world, they are not threatened by any of the things that we say,
No,
you know? And so the men who that not all men stuff is coming from, it just shows like a level of insecurity or something, you know?
I agree. Yeah. What was the other piece of that? Not all men or women are just as bad. What about that one?
Oh, well, come on. Anytime when anytime rape or something like that comes up, it's always like, you're trying to talk about women rape victims or male perpetrators. Always, always, always it's, well, men are rape victims too, which is not untrue, but it's like, it's sort of like the all lives matter or something, like
Yeah, no true Scotsman fallacy. Yeah, women are not just as bad. That is a straight
right.
up fact.
I mean, 91% of violent crimes are committed by men, so
Right. Women are capable of doing heinous things, but as a class, women are not as just as bad. That's not, that's, yeah, it's
clearly.
just not true. Women are not just as bad.
Yep.
Yep.
Myth
Myth.
busted.
Myth busted.
All right, next. Oh, okay. These are actually the same, even though one's black and one's white. Radical feminists hate women who are in sex work, and radical feminists do not accept prostitutes. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I just wrote an essay about this, so hopefully coming out in the next day or two. But yeah, of course this is something that's really used to like divide the left,
Big time.
right? Like, because everyone on the left agrees that we should support prostituted women. It's just some people think we should support them by legalizing quote unquote sex work. And
Mm-hmm.
some people think we should support them by trying to get them out of it.
Yeah.
Because one statistic I have that's in my video that's coming up is that 89% of women in prostitution want to get out at the
Yeah.
first second first opportunity they have. So
That's
89%.
horrifying.
Yeah, it's virtually all of them.
Yeah.
And maybe the
And so
ones
the
who,
left is fighting for the 11%.
yeah, that part of the left,
Well, yeah, that.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the the sex work is work people.
Yeah.
And they're saying, well, if you don't want to legalize it, it must mean that you are villainizing, demonizing prostitutes. So of course not.
Yeah.
We're
It goes
seeing,
also,
yeah,
go ahead. I was just going to
no,
say, it goes also back to the claim of like conservative Christianity and religiosity. Like,
yes. Oh,
no.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. This is in my video too, but like, because there was this thread on Reddit or whatever about it, and people were saying, oh, it's just the evangelical pearl clutchers getting their panties in a twist,
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like,
Exactly.
no, whoops. There's nothing wrong with like, well, okay, step back there. I was going to say there's nothing wrong with sex. That's a whole other topic. Let's just
Uh huh.
say, okay, now I don't know what to say about that
There's nothing
because
wrong with being a woman who is sexual, probably. Or having.
that's like that's like just like a
Or,
whole other can of worms, but like it's not out of prudishness, let's just put it that way. It's not out
right.
of prudishness that we're critical of
Or that we're anti
prostitution. It's
sex.
the fact that the reality of prostitution is that almost all women in it are trafficked. That is the
Exploited.
more, yes, they're exploited. Almost all prostitutes have a pimp, and
Yep.
almost all pimps are violent, physically violent. So,
Yep.
how can you say that this is, oh, sex work is work? Just get out of here, get out of here. And, also this idea that it's like any other kind of work.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, there was such a great. I think it was Gail Dines who was telling a story about encountering a man who was challenging her on the sex work is work stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
how it's no different than uh, uh, flipping burgers. And she had said to him, "Well, why don't you bend over and take it then, if it's no different?" And he was just like, "Oh well, no, like no, blah, blah, blah." And it's like, okay, so there is a difference then.
Right.
There
Can
is
you
a
get
difference.
pregnant from the burger? No,
Yeah.
you can't.
Yeah. Are you going to be beaten if you don't bring enough money to your boss at McDonald's?
Mm.
No. Are you going to be branded with a hot knife or a tattoo gun so that everyone knows who you belong to when you're flipping burgers at McDonald's? No. Like, there is a difference between prostitution, being prostituted, and any other job. There just is a difference. And people who claim to not be able to see that are shockingly infuriating.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What was
But
that also? I saw a statistic. I have no source to claim this or back this up, but I remember reading that something like the average age of entering out what they call outdoor sex work or street level prostitution is
uh-huh.
13.
Oh my gosh. I wouldn't doubt it though. You know, and this is another thing I say in my video, spoiler alert, but um the idea I'm not the first person to say this obviously, but like, you know, sex work is work, child labor is labor. And in a lot of cases there's quite a bit of overlap too because
Yes. Well, yeah,
many
children are
there was an article in the
prostituted.
New York Times a while ago and they started off by saying it was about a so-called trans woman, but saying this person had survived on the streets of New York City at 13 by trading sex. That's how they um, worded it in the New York
Yeah.
Times in the opening
Yeah.
paragraph or whatever. And it's just so appalling that even could get written. A 13-year-old cannot trade sex. A
Hmm.
13-year-old is raped, period.
Yeah.
Um,
There was a local story here about, God, it's disgusting, but teenage girls being trafficked. And in the news, they were talking, like in the newspaper, they were talking about how men had sex with these trafficked girls. And it's like, no, they didn't. They raped them. They
right.
assaulted them. There was no sex being had.
Hmm.
The language is so important. And just like you said, she traded sex. No, she didn't. Like, ugh,
All right.
yeah. Okay. Another myth about radical feminism. Separatists want to literally drag heterosexually partnered women by their hair and force them to live on the lesbian homestead.
Separatists don't care what you do.
No, not at all.
That's
Um,
like a personal choice. You can do
yeah.
whatever you want. I don't care. I'm not like, you know.
Women who are separatists talking about separatism or promoting separatism or encouraging separatism are not forcing anything on you. We're not dragging women away from their husbands and forcing them onto the lesbian homestead. um, it's not even like, I think I said encouraging earlier, but I don't think it's even encouraging. Like, I am a separatist and I'm interested in talking about separatism, and it's for the women who want to hear it.
Right, and it shouldn't be threatening to anyone for a woman to talk about her experience of rejecting interactions with men. I mean, why does that threaten anyone? It's like the number one thing that people like when I talk about it. People like think that I'm personally attacking them, you know? It's like
Yeah,
do what you want. I really don't care. I really don't care.
yeah, that's right. And the thing also about this myth that drives me a little bit nuts is we, as separatists, all know that our vision of a utopian separatist future is not going to happen. Like, but the women who critique us for it or say that we're dragging them away from their Nigels, um, act as if it is imminent that lesbians will be dragging them into the streets any moment now.
The way that I see separatism, it's just a personal it is an individualistic choice in a sense. If you think of feminism as being a class thing, then separatism is a separate thing outside of that. Like, at least that's my personal opinion of it. You know, it's not something that I'm doing like for the class. It's something I'm like doing for myself. It's the way that I
Yes.
see that I'm personally going to achieve liberation. I mean, I think you could call me a libertarian. Like, I don't identify as one, but I have been called that. But like, because I think there's the class struggle, which is utterly important, obviously. And
Hmm.
then there's things that we can do in our individual lives to feel personally more liberated. And I don't say that in like an individualistic way. It's like, I mean, I do, I guess. Like, I don't wear makeup because I feel more confident without it. You
Hmm.
know, I minimize my interactions with men because I feel more comfortable that way. So yeah, but I've never said like I've never said to any woman that she should choose that lifestyle. I've said that it's open for consideration, but um, but I have been told by so-called radical feminists that I should like try it out. You know what I mean? Like dating men.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I just want to talk about something that I just noticed in the chat. My
oh
story
yeah.
about what I thought was Gail Dines. Someone said no, it was actually Julie Bindel. And then apparently, Silent Voice here said that no, it was actually her.
Oh,
It was Silent Voice's experience, but Julie Bindel repeats the story a lot because she was there. So I just want to say
oh well,
I
thank you for your words.
yes, no kidding. I that the first time I ever heard that story, it stuck with me forever. So um, yeah, I had no idea, and I'm glad that Silent Voice was here to uh, clear it all up.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for being here.
Hmm.
All right. Next, we have a few more. I think we'll get through everything.
Yeah, well,
Um,
and we can go over an hour if we need to.
yeah. I mean, I'm not doing anything. I don't know what you're up
Yeah,
to.
nothing.
um, all right. That it's about equality. No, it's about, this was one I particularly liked. No, it's about female liberation. We don't want to lower ourselves to males. Of course,
Yes.
feminism is not about equality. That's a difficult thing for some people to grasp. Equality is not possible because of the differences in our reproductive roles. As long as we have a society where women are going to
Hmm.
be
Yeah.
moms,
The
equality is
claim.
not possible, but
No,
equity
equity
is
is,
what we
yeah.
should be working for.
I can't deal with the claims that feminism is about equality because it's not possible. And further, I'm not interested in having any equality. I've said this before, I think, on a stream with you. I'm not interested in having any equality with the class of people that is permitted to be violent and abusive and
Mm-hmm.
exploitative and horrible. I'm not interested in
Exactly.
equality. I don't want any part of that.
I mean, actually, that's like a criticism that sort of anti feminist males will say. They'll be like, oh, if you want equality, where are you going to fight in the wars and stuff too?
Hmm.
And it's like,
Does that mean I can
actually,
hit you?
well, yeah. It's like, no,
Well,
we don't want that. No woman wants that. Even the so-called equality feminists don't want that. You know,
mhm.
like,
Yeah.
because that's what equality would be. It would be taking on those roles that we are critical of in that within
Right.
that, patriarchal
And yeah,
society.
as radical feminists, we want a complete restructuring of the way society is set up, not
Hmm.
to work for equality within the current structure.
Yep. Michelle's comment, who changed the nickname? It was Women's Lib in my youth. Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's a great question. I don't know when it stopped being coming or when it stopped being called women's liberation and people seemed to move on or forget about it.
Yeah, I think women's liberation is a great name.
Yeah.
It sums it up. We should bring that back.
Yeah, I'm a female liberationist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. A myth that radical feminists want men to fit into the masculine role and women into the feminine role at all times. Then they proceed to say how close minded that is and how being non binary is trying to break all of that down. Okay.
Oh.
So I think this really just harkens back to the ties to being conservative. Um, this is weird to me. I honestly don't think I've really encountered this kind of a claim before. That
Well, I
radical
think that
feminists want men to fit into the masculine role and women to fit into the feminine role.
yeah, I think it goes along with that sort of conservative view of like TRAs being like, oh, that we're the ones reinforcing gender. I feel like I've heard that.
Okay.
Non-binary is nothing. I still like and there's no definition. Even if you go to the Human Rights Campaign website and you
Yeah.
look at their definition of non-binary, it says someone who identifies as both man and woman, as neither man and woman, or some combination. Like, I'm pretty sure that's what the definition is. It's like, what is that? That's nothing. Yes, that's such a great point, Willow. Non-binary reinforces the binary. I mean, and my history, if anyone's seen my like how I became gender critical, like 3 or 4 years ago, I had this moment, like moments before I discovered this gender critical stuff. I was like, you know what? I think I'm non-binary because I don't want to fit into. I was like, oh, womanhood. I was seeing consuming all this trans woman content at the time, and I'm thinking, well, womanhood is like doing your nails, wearing your makeup. I can't do my makeup as good as those males, like. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess I must not be a woman, and I don't want the pressure to be that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I've said it before that it's like a trap door out of the oppression of womanhood. That was another thing. It was like, well, I wonder if I identify as non-binary or identify as a man, will I get paid more? Will I not get passed up for
Right.
promotions like I have? Like, will people just like, what are the advantages of being a man? Like, will I just like magically acquire that
You
power?
identify into the advantages and the privilege. Yeah, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work like that. Strangely enough, like
Yeah.
you can identify as and literally be a man according to your self-identification, but magically that doesn't come with the privileges and benefits of being a man for some reason, even though you
No
identify
one's going to
as
see you as a man. I
right.
mean, there are some um, trans identified females or whatever who pass like really well.
Right.
Um, and I think that they probably do experience male privilege.
Sure, yeah.
But
But that's
I
yeah.
still have that female anatomy.
Mm, sure do.
But yeah, non-binary is just nothing. Did you know that there's an ice skater? Did we talk about this?
We did not, but I know exactly where you're going with
Oh
this.
yeah, there's an ice skate. I think he's from America.
Yeah, Team
In
USA.
the pairs skating, which by the way, in their rules says it has to be one man and one woman.
One woman, and he identifies as non-binary.
Yeah,
I'm
and
just
of course
imagining.
it's yeah. What? Go ahead.
I'm just imagining when the Olympics are on and the commentators are having to like say
Oh well,
they.
I watched a couple. I've been getting a little excited about the Olympics, even though I know it's problematic. But
I
yeah, I've been watching some Olympic stuff, and I watched a couple of their things, and then the commentators would say they, but they're like referring to the two of
one
them.
person. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not like referring just to him. But yeah, exactly. Like, and also he's very masculine, like
Yes, he's just
looking.
a man.
He's got a beard, he's got a big man body, he's like throwing the girl around and everything.
Yeah, he's just a man.
Yeah, it's yeah, non-binary is just like the funniest thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's so nonsensical.
It
It
is.
means nothing at all.
Yeah.
It means nothing.
Yep. There was something I was going to say and I forgot, but yeah. All right, moving on.
Okay.
Oh, I thought these were really good together.
Okay, go for it.
Feminism is the cause of the trans trend. Rad femmes are responsible for trans women deaths.
Oh God. Okay.
We caused it
Yeah.
and we're killing them.
Right.
Well, they're two
I
separate talking points, but yeah, you can go ahead.
So feminism is the cause of the trans trend is something I primarily see from men.
Yes.
Um,
They're like, oh, this is what you wanted. Now you're going to
yeah,
complain about it.
it's like, yep, I want to have sympathy for you, but you kind of got what's coming. Yeah, that one. And then the queer gender people are the ones who say that we're responsible for trans women's deaths, or radical feminists are literally killing trans people.
Yeah.
Uh,
And let me just say, it's a tragedy when anyone is murdered.
of course.
Right. That goes without saying. It's nothing to celebrate or anything. But
No.
like, there's not a single murderer out there who's like, oh, what did Sheila Jeffries say about this? I'm gonna go kill a trans woman. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
they're not like listening to rad femmes. They're not into feminism. Like,
No.
most people who are murdering those people are like doing so because I mean most of them are in prostitution or other kind of like drug, you know, situations or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not they're not like hate crimes generally
Yeah.
in that sense, you know?
Yeah.
Yes,
The
love
whole
to not hold men
well,
accountable for anything.
thank you, gay aliens.
Yes, it's like oh, we're responsible for the deaths even though it was perpetrated by
A
a man
man.
who's never even heard of radical
Yeah,
feminism.
show
Okay,
me a
yeah,
single
sure.
receipt of a woman who is a radical feminist who has
Mhm.
committed a hate crime against a trans person.
Mhm. And Beatrix says the problem is male violence always has been,
Yeah,
always will be.
other males are the ones killing them.
Yep,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, and then yeah, okay. So I think yeah, we pretty much covered those two. Okay,
Oh, okay.
if you want to go take this one, go for it.
Mhm. Femcells is a good one, implying that only women who nobody wants to have sex with are feminists. Oh, and that women already have all the rights we need, so there's no need for feminism anymore. All said by men, of course. I think you actually hear that from women too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are women out there who are like, we don't need to vote. Why do we vote? Like, leave that to men. Yeah, that's a thing that exists. So yeah, that's not just coming from men, and femcells is not just coming from men either, although my personal take on that is that I don't think as a theoretical thing that
Oops.
femcells exists. I don't believe in it because there's I believe in incels. There's certainly men out there who cannot have sex, but a woman, no. Maybe
Yeah.
not with the guy, her dream guy or something, but there's somebody out there for you, hun.
Oh yeah.
I
Um,
don't think I don't believe in that as a concept.
Me neither. And it's just again, this is like a misogynist critique too, because it's like implying that um, feminists aren't like pretty enough or good enough to get laid, so they just become angry femcells. Like, no, radical feminists are making the active choice to distance themselves from heteropatriarchy. Big difference.
Yep. Yeah.
The trad wives, yeah, the trad wives are a wild bunch. Women who think we have all the rights we need already and that believe that women's rights is done and over with. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Women weren't brought up to feel entitled to sex. That's a great point. That goes to what you were saying, Lisa, about how femcells is just not a thing. It can't be because of what Silent Voice here says.
It
I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, there may be women out there who want to have sex and are sexually frustrated and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a theory, and this is a joke, don't at me, but like, I think that, well, is it a joke? I don't know. I really believe, like, if a woman wants to, any woman, over 18 in America or anywhere, wants to have sex, she could be having sex within probably 12 to 24 hours max.
Yeah.
It's just how it works. It's like it for women, it's just totally available if you want it.
Yeah. It's in high demand. Like there's yeah. Men always want to
So
be having sex with women. So if a woman wants it, she
it's
can
yeah, and
easily
it's
get it.
totally irrelevant to what you look like or
Yeah.
anything. Yeah, so I just don't buy that.
Great comment here.
I know that there are like yeah, and that's true too. I mean, there are forums for women who identify in that manner.
Yep.
And I don't frequent them. I know of their existence, but yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, I think the next one's our last one.
Oh wow.
Or maybe we have
Okay.
one more. I don't know.
Okay. So myth about radical feminism. You're just reducing women's bodies to genitals. This is indistinguishable from conservatism. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So when we define womanhood as being an adult human female, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, so women are just walking vaginas to you?
um, Sex or I don't really use the word gender, but yeah, like whether you're female slash woman or male slash man is dependent on your reproductive capacity slash role.
Mhm.
So that's it. That's it. It's not what's in your brain. It doesn't, you have a male brain or a female brain. Irrelevant.
Mhm.
Do you produce eggs or do you produce sperm? Or are you
Yeah.
oriented more in one direction or the other for people who are intersex?
Intersex. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that's
And
it.
yeah,
That's all there is.
reducing women's bodies to genitals is such an insane claim to me when it's the other side who are saying words like menstruators and uterus owners
That's a very good
and
point, too.
breast havers. Um, when you're defining, like, they are the ones defining human beings by what organs they have. Like, calling us uterus owners.
Yes, that's such a good point.
I don't own a uterus. There's one inside of me, but
Yeah,
like,
I know I posted about this in my community, but there was this article this week in the New York Times about young women getting their periods
mhm,
and how people are approaching it now or whatever. And throughout the article, they kept saying menstruators, menstruators. And the comments, there were like 300, 400 comments on this. And I wrote a troll comment just
yeah,
for my own
it was
entertainment.
great. Everyone should go to Lisa Michelle's channel and look at her community tab because it's hilarious.
But yeah, none of the women were buying it. They were not having it. They were like, I am not a menstruator. My daughter is not a menstruator. Stop. This language is dehumanizing.
So dehumanizing, completely removing the humanity from a person and
Hmm.
referring to them only as what their body might be capable of doing.
Yeah, and it's the other side that's reducing women to
Yes,
stereotypes. I mean, like literally, they're like, oh, you're wearing makeup? You're a woman."
right.
Like,
Or yeah, or like people who are claim that they're non-binary. They're like, I'm having a girly day today, so I'm gonna put makeup on. Or I'm having I feel masculine today, so I'm gonna wear a binder. Like, who's
hmm.
reducing who to what? Certainly not us. We are not reducing women to being
No,
uterus havers, but we do claim, yes, that women mostly do have uteruses. Like, that's a very different
it's
statement.
it's just a biological foundation from which anything can grow. You can have any personality, you can present in any way. You can
Yeah.
have short hair, you can have long hair, you can do whatever job you want, you can have whatever friends you want. You can speak in whatever way you want. You can have a tiny little dog or a big dog or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, are you oriented around producing large gametes? You're a woman.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
That's all it takes. Sorry,
But
it's an exclusive door, and we're holding the velvet rope here.
yes.
I think
Is
we
that our
have
last
one
one?
more slide. It's kind of a juicy one. Actually, this was something I had not heard of, but the person who wrote this comment did elaborate a little bit more. So I think I know a little bit about what she's talking about. So we'll see where this goes. But please talk about the idea of naturally feminine women and their counterparts, the naturally masculine men, and how what's needed is to balance the two. The idea seems to be taking the het girl GC scene, which I don't know what that is, but
The heterosexual gender critical women.
well, thank you. I got that much, but I don't know as far as the scene what that is. But yeah,
Oh, so I
uh,
think they're just saying that it's really popular in heterosexual gender critical women's circles.
okay. By storm. Let's see. I'm definitely not in any of those circles. I believe it is based in a spiritual belief or something. I believe the idea of such a thing is just a way to protect men's fragile identities and affirm the idea of them being inherently masculine. Now, when I first read this, you know what I thought of, just like word association or whatever that popped in my head
Mm.
was like the idea of a naturally feminine woman.
Hmm.
Like, what is that? And
We have
just
no idea.
what popped in my head was like the Mona Lisa, because I think the Mona Lisa was considered like really feminine,
Right.
or like throughout history kind of, but actually it's like she's super butch kind of. And then I looked, this is just so like random, but I was looking into it more, and it's like, oh, Leonardo da Vinci actually used male models for the Mona Lisa.
Hmm.
And I was just thinking, like, more generally throughout history, like how femininity totally changes. And even now in this period of history, like if you go where you go all over the world, like it's going to look different wherever you
Hmm.
are.
Yeah, femininity and masculinity are man made
Mm-hmm.
ideals, and they vary from culture to culture and from era to era. They're different all the time and in all places. And when one wants to talk about a natural femininity, that is so impossible to me because there's no such thing. We have no idea what a woman in her fully natural
Right.
state would be because we have all been raised in this exact same
Yes.
heteropatriarchy.
Uninfluenced by
Right.
male standards. Yeah. There's no such thing. There's only female and male. Feminine is nothing. I mean, it's funny that this commenter was saying like this comes up in het girl GC groups or whatever. It's like, really? Like, people claiming to be gender critical are not critical of the idea
Of
of
gender.
femininity? Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing is people who claim to be gender critical, what we said this at the top of the stream,
Mhm.
is they're transgender critical, but they don't
Yeah.
actually critique gender, which includes masculinity and femininity and
Mhm.
gendered behaviors that people perform. That also is what gender critical contains.
Yeah, and I had a follow-up to this comment by the same person, and she was saying that, like, these women are using this as sort of like a hierarchy or something, like
Mm,
to say that there's a type of woman who's sort of like alpha or something like that. And
mm.
again, yeah, it's like very ungender critical. Like,
Yeah, that's weird.
this idea, yeah, a naturally feminine woman and the naturally masculine counterpart.
To me, that seems like just a very easy, convenient way to excuse one's participation in patriarchal femininity.
Mhm.
If it's just natural, then
Oh yeah, the I'm just like rubbing my
temples.
forehead. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, it's like the natural. You know, it's really interesting too, because I told you I had this conversation yesterday with someone who's like critiquing black pill and stuff, and it's like, but then at the same time, they were like, you know, motherhood is so natural and all this stuff. It's like, so you're willing to talk about that natural, but not the black pill natural, like that male violence is quote unquote
Right.
natural, you know, or whatever.
Mm.
I don't
That is
know.
actually super interesting to me that you bring that up because I think it's so true that people will talk about the naturalness of women being nurturing and gentle and mothers, like, uh, and how that's just natural and innate instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if radical feminists talk about the ways in which there could be something natural and innate about men's violence, suddenly that's way too far.
Yes, and then you're a bioessentialist and you're excusing male violence and you're saying, you
Right.
know, it's like, no, 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 no.
No. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's actually a really good point because
it's a little
um,
hypocritical in my
what it
opinion.
absolutely is. One is taken as fact pretty much,
Yes, you're
and the
like,
other
oh,
is like you're deranged. What are you talking about?
right, the mother goddess energy, but then we can't acknowledge that male violence is an inherent part of maleness.
Maleness. Yeah,
Ah,
interesting. Great
Beatrix
point.
says nurturing and mothering are learned. And yeah, I mean, and they're definitely not innate to being a female because I am not nurturing or mothering at all. Like,
Right.
at all. If that was a defining feature of being a woman, like, I've never experienced that, like, I want to nurture something. I mean, I had plants, you know, I've never even had a pet. Like, you
Yeah, and the
know,
thing
like,
is, when you say that, like,
I just don't
sorry,
have
I'm
that
making so much
instinct.
noise. Yeah, when you say like you're not nurturing or you don't have that instinct or whatever, like people will use that against you then
Oh,
and
yeah,
say that
I
you're
know.
like
I had,
a,
oh, yeah.
yeah, you're a cold-hearted, distant,
Yeah, and I've heard it
devoid
from
of any
so-called
soul.
rad femmes. Yes, and then
Yeah,
they'll say
same.
because I claim to not be nurturing and mothering, that somehow is equating to me hating mothers or something. It's like, no, 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 that's just me personally. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah,
But
this reminds me.
it's just a reality. It's like saying like I have blonde hair. You know, it's like that's just like a characteristic of myself. It's not like an attack on anyone. You know.
Yeah. Um, one of my like first ever videos, like one of my first five for sure. It's called "The Expectation of Empathy," um, and it's about exactly this. Like I had been told in a radical feminist Facebook group, based on my opinions about radical feminism, that it seems like your radical feminism doesn't come up from a place of empathy, and that's a way to really check you and put you in your place. Um, and
Yeah.
and also like yeah, that critique in itself is kind of misogynist because women are expected to be empathetic and soft and gentle and nurturing, and when we're not, even
Oh,
women who call themselves radical feminists will use it against us.
this is segues into exactly like what I wanted to end this conversation with, which is the be kindness, and
Mm,
then that leading into like what happens when you're a woman with an opinion on the internet. You know, like it. You know, you know what I
yeah.
mean.
Hmm.
It's very difficult, and like it's like I we both feel this way of just we want to express these opinions. They're very foundational radical feminists. You and I are both pretty, I mean, you're very well read. I feel like I'm pretty well read.
Yeah.
We've been in this game for a while. We're often talking to people who really don't know much about it.
Right.
Not the
Yeah.
people
Who are
here,
not
they get it,
not yeah.
but you know.
There are often, yeah, women who come after us, or not just us, but like women who are genuinely interested in or knowledgeable about radical feminism with claims and accusations that are not in any way relevant to radical feminism, or they show clearly that this person doesn't actually know anything about radical feminism and they're holding you to their standards
Mm-hmm.
about female behavior rather
Yes, and
than with a radical feminist lens.
they're trying to mold this, they're trying to mold radical feminism into what they believe.
Yeah.
Like they're
Yes.
trying to fit the square into the
The
round
circle
hole or
hole.
whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's like, this is what I believe, and I'm going to call myself a radical feminist so that we got to get those things to align or something, and then you're like, no, this is actually what it is.
Oh, yeah, exactly. This is the exact same thing as people who say something like, my radical feminism believes that there's no such thing as your radical feminism or my radical
No.
feminism. There is only radical feminism. To me, that's the exact same thing as saying, in my math, 2 + 2 is 5.
Well,
No,
I sent you that was it Julie Bindel video today about marriage or whatever. I don't think you watched it, but
I didn't watch it yet. I'm sorry.
yeah. It's like a 2-minute video or whatever, and she's just saying marriage is not a feminist action. And
Right.
I think it's a really excellent video, and I was going to share it on my channel, but then I realized I didn't know much about her, and then I looked up the whole like political lesbianism thing, and that makes me like
Mm-hmm.
super uncomfortable. So I was like, I don't think I'm going to share this. But anyways, the video is just like she's like, marriage is not a feminist action. You're becoming part of this system that has
Mm-hmm.
been used to oppress women forever. You're taking your husband's name, whatever. And I thought all her points were like spot on, like chef's kiss, like really
Yeah.
good. And um but one thing she says in that video is she's like, if you want to do it, do it. It's just
Yeah.
not a feminist action. And that's like,
Right.
that's the thing. It's like, yeah, radical feminism has this framework. You don't do it perfectly. I don't do it perfectly. There's not a single person on this planet who does it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But our intention and our action is to work at and do it better always, not
mhm.
to try to excuse or change the definitions and the barrier or the gates, the gatekeeping of
Yeah,
radical feminism to fit what we prefer or want or like.
exactly. And it's like you and I don't want to out you, but you and I were talking about how like watching plastic surgery videos because it's
Yeah.
interesting from a medical perspective or whatever. And someone might be like, "Oh, well, what the heck?" And it's like, I guess, from a perfect radical feminist standpoint,
Yeah.
you would just like not support that in any way or whatever. Um, but it's like, yeah, but I'm not going to be like, "Oh yeah, me sitting and watching plastic surgery videos is a radical feminist action."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Silent Voices comment, radical feminism has a base of shared beliefs, but it isn't a hive mind. There's still disagreement within radical feminism. And I really think that, all of us got here by being really open-minded. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why, and when I first was involved in like gender critical for like the first year, and then like much of the time I was on Over It or whatever, I was so impressed by just like, you didn't have to agree on everything, and you could
Totally.
have high level conversations without it devolving into like personal attacks. And then at some point that shifted, and I don't know why, and it became, oh, if you disagree with me, you're a bitch, like instantly, like, and it's like personal stuff. So um but yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's like in the context of this conversation of busting myths and whatever, like, some of these things are our opinion. Some of them are like based on regular radical feminist, like,
Framework.
framework, theory, praxis, like,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of the day, this live stream is just for fun
Yeah.
because we like chatting.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we should all aspire to, is just keep an open mind, Find
That's
the
right.
parts of it that work for you. Challenge yourself on the other parts. That
Oh my
is,
God, yes.
that's what we're here to do, is to challenge our thinking. To whatever you're doing, examine it,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
think it's important too that um, a certain level of discomfort is part of human growth.
Absolutely. That's a very like Buddhist thing, is like to accept that um change is the nature of things and discomfort is the nature of life, and not to fight
Mm,
against that, but to realize that points of discomfort are the places that will cause you to grow and to experience
absolutely.
life like more fully and stuff.
Yep.
So it's okay to like get out of your comfort zone and challenge yourself. I just feel very, very, very fortunate and lucky that I came into the groups that I did at the point that I did, and at the point where those groups were, because I
Mm.
came into gender critical and I was like, hey guys, like, what's this deal with like, why don't you accept sex work or whatever, And I would like say stuff like that. And they were like, honey, let's just gently nudge you, and they were like so kind about it and stuff. And that's how I got to where I am. And sometimes I feel like I have to remind myself to be like gentle. Like I see the comments on my channel, I can tell the comments on my channel that are like the baby rad femmes who are like dipping the
Yeah.
toe in, who
Yeah.
aren't just like, oh, this is awful. They're like,
Yeah.
but wait, why? Like
Yeah.
you can see that thought process happening, and you have to like, it's so, I mean, I haven't been in this game that long, but like you can get to that point where you're really cynical because you read these brain dead, like the myths that we just read today, all this like brain dead critiques, a lot of it happening from within, from women who call themselves radical feminists, or from like
Yeah.
within or whatever.
Yeah.
um
It's coming from inside the house.
yeah, and you get kind of cynical about it, and you just have to remind yourself
Yeah.
that like there are women out there who are trying,
Yeah,
and
I
you have to
think
be
though
patient
it's
with them.
yeah, you can tell who is a baby rad femme curious about this stuff
Yeah.
versus who is a woman who calls herself a radical feminist who is
Yes.
combative.
Right.
You can
Right. And
tell.
there's no reason for that. There's no reason for that. Like we can all learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've learned so much from you.
Likewise.
And I've also been so grateful for your support, like from the beginning. Even when I first started, like barely had talked about anything, and you were like already
Mm,
so supportive of me.
well, I
So
think you're
yeah.
the most brilliant radical feminist on YouTube, so.
Oh, thank you. Well, I would encourage everyone who's here, since we are on your channel, to like go back in your catalog, because I've done that a bunch of times and just,
Oh,
yeah,
no.
don't get, no, it's not cringy. Just to like, I've like binge listened to like a few of your videos in a row, and like because you have a video on like every topic from like years ago. It's very
Oh,
impressive that it's such a collection of every topic that you could want to hear about. And I especially
thanks.
like your videos where you're just like freestyling for 10 minutes or whatever. And I feel like you
Mm,
haven't been doing those as much
I
lately,
know
but
I haven't. I have one going up on Tuesday.
okay, good, good. Um, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, I just am not inspired. So, but most of my content, honestly, is made when I read or see or hear something, and in that second, I'm like, I have to talk about this. And
Yes. I
so
know
I
the
haven't been
feeling.
reading, seeing, or hearing something that has made me like, I think it's because, you know what it is? It's because I deleted my Twitter. So I
I
don't have anything to get upset about anymore.
I know. Well, yeah, pretty much all the ideas I have just come into my head, or because I
Yeah,
am not like my YouTube channel, your YouTube channel, like a few others. I don't really follow a lot of feminist stuff, and I don't read over it anymore. I don't go on Twitter. I don't have Instagram. I don't have Facebook. So it's
yeah.
like I'm in a little. I'm not consuming a lot of like feminist stuff right now, but
Yeah. Well, you have to like go in ebbs and flows or like take a break when you need it,
yeah. I
for
found that
sure.
especially with like the trans stuff and the gender critical stuff.
Hmm.
It's like I have moments where I'm like, this is the most important thing in the whole world, and like I get so
Yeah.
jazzed about it, and then I'm like, oh, I can't anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's totally fair and reasonable to me.
Yeah.
But
All
thank you
right.
for
Does
your nice
anyone
comments.
in the chat have anything else? We're like way long on time.
That's
good.
okay.
Get you some watch time.
It flowed well. So,
Yeah. Great stream.
we don't have any more myths to share in our little slideshow here. So if anyone has anything they want to share or say or whatever, we're happy to talk about it. But also, we recognize it's now officially been an hour and a half. And
Yes.
I'm sure people here have things to do.
Yes. So can we plan on 2 weeks from now?
I think so.
Okay. I'm really enjoying doing these streams with you.
Me too. Yay.
Yay.
And with all of the wonderful people who are in the chat
Yeah.
and their thoughtful and challenging comments, it's really been so nice today. So thank you for everyone who has participated.
And Radical Ramblings and I talked about it beforehand that like we wanted to be more involved with the chat. So I feel like that hopefully we were a little bit more today, because I know I find it like a little bit difficult to do both at once. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. Really, I just love this community so much, honestly.
Me too. It's been really just lucky. I've been so lucky. And
yeah, and it's amazing. Just it's like seeing the same names pop up over and over again.
yeah,
and
you
like
get to recognize people, and you're excited that they're here.
Yes, and getting to know people's like vibes and stuff, and yeah, I want
or
you
you
guys
see a
to
name in the chat, and you're like, oh, I know something good's about to happen.
Exactly.
Because you just know that they have something good to say. So yeah, it's really
you guys
enjoyable.
are so valuable. I really want you to know that. We talk about it all the time. So
all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. On that note, good note to end on.
Yeah. Have a great day, everybody, and thank you so much for coming. And we'll see you, or hear you, or chat with you next time.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.